and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me to talk NFL betting as NASCAR is on a break this week, it's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's up, Kyle? Yeah, we were talking prior to the show. It came to a surprise, probably to both of us, that there was no NASCAR race this weekend. It just becomes so normal that every week I was looking forward to the next race, and to see that there wasn't one, I was actually kind of disappointed, which I never thought in a million years I would ever get to this point in my NASCAR fanhood. But yeah, no, it gives us a good chance to look at some NFL futures. I mean, the league year is coming just right around the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, teams are going to start reporting the camp, so I'm excited to dive into some of these odds.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, if you are interested in NASCAR and or betting, come join us. We're there each and every week breaking down our favorite odds, outrights, head-to-heads, all that good stuff. But yeah, we want to talk some football, and having this week off has been a nice chance to dive in and do that. We'll start with NFL MVP. With each of these NFL shows, we're going to do the $100 challenge. So we'll have $100 to spend. We'll divvy it out accordingly. Just so you guys can kind of get a feel of where we're at mentally, where we're feeling stronger, feeling weaker, that kind of stuff. Try and pick a couple options. We'll do a Super Bowl. We'll do some win totals. We'll do all kinds of stuff. If there are certain bets you want to see us make, drop them down in the comments, as well as let us know who your favorite outright bet is to take home the NFL MVP. And Brian, before we dive in, I kind of wanted to talk like theory and kind of how you go about processing it in your brain, because this is clearly an award that over the past 20 years has become, it's the quarterback's award to lose, right? Like you can go back to 2000 basically, and outside of 1, 2, 3, 4 players, where is he? Adrian Peterson.
Well, and that was his 2,000 yard season too.
Right.
So
yeah, and so 4 out of the last 20 years, plus even Derrick Henry had a 2,000 yard season where the Titans were good and he still didn't win it. So it's clearly, obviously the NFL, everything is so quarterback driven. Fantasy points, real life production, all that stuff. So picking a quarterback, I think, is kind of a necessity. If you want to get real funky, I mean, you have to really build yourself a narrative that you can figure something out. Even as amazing as Cooper Kupp was last year, it still wasn't good enough. So really feels like a quarterback award. But like in terms of things that you think about when you're making picks, obviously numbers are huge. Like you want to get good odds and good value and whatnot. But is there other things that are going into your mind in terms of like what you're thinking about? And when you're looking at the board saying, oh, there's potential there?
yeah, I mean, it's not just about like, obviously you're going to lean towards the quarterback position, but then it's also the next big thing for me is how successful is that person's team going to be? I mean, you could put up massive numbers and be on a 500 team and be third or fourth in the MVP voting, so especially in the NFL, when it comes to the quarterback position, they're kind of measured on wins as much as they are on their statistics. So, I mean, you're looking at somebody who's going to win a lot of games, who's going to be, play a major role in that, because not every quarterback is the reason why their team wins, and which is why like the top of the board is filled with the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Russell Wilsons, the Tom Brady's of the world, and those guys always are going to be the favorite to win the award.
Yep. So we'll start looking at the lines and kind of go. I have Odds Checker up just so we can look at the odds. If a sports book out there wants to become the official partner of the Angle Pursuit, let me know on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. But this is just a good way to look at variety of lines. Look at it. All the sports books are covered. As you mentioned, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers lead the way, and then a bunch more quarterbacks. So yeah, for me, it's yeah, obviously you don't necessarily have to win the number one overall seed, but I
Mhm.
think you have to be in the conversation for it. You have to have a very real shot at being like one of the top 2 or 3 seeds. I think is kind of pushing it. So I think that's important. I think narrative matters, whether it's a younger quarterback that really takes a leap and kind of does what Lamar Jackson did, or what Aaron Rodgers has done is just be absurd with your production, incredibly accurate, and lead your team to one of the top couple seeds. So, um, Josh Allen is your favorite, and I think for good reason. There's a really good chance the Bills are the number one overall seed in the AFC. They obviously got better on both sides of the ball this year. Um, Having Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Dawson Knox, all these names, plus his running ability. Like as much as we like what James Cook can be and what Devin Singletary was down the stretch, so much of this offense runs through Josh Allen. He's kind of like the new version of Cam Newton, right? Where
Yep.
everything is touching his hands, going through him. So to be listed at 7-1 makes sense. Both of you and I are not fans of diving super shallow, especially at things where there's a multitude of options. But at that price, I think it could make a ton of sense.
Yeah, normally, like Kyle just said, we don't like to go to the top of the board for any bet, but when looking at the MVP voting, and I mean the outrights as of right now, before camps even open, getting 7-1 for the favorite, knowing that this guy is probably in the middle of the season going to be like 4.5, probably 5-1 at the lowest, I think
Yeah.
is a good value right now. Buffalo should be as good, if not better, than they were last year with the addition of Von Miller. I mean, the offense, the third year now with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen and Gabriel Davis now probably fully unleashed. The addition of James Cook in the backfield, which I think will add another element to this offense. This is going to be potentially the best Bills offense we've seen. And so getting him at 7-1 is a pretty good number and a great value right now. Although he's not the guy I'd be going to at towards the top of the board right now.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. Obviously, not having Brian Dayball makes things a little interesting too. We'll see how that really impacts. I think if you want to tell yourself a story, you go with Patrick Mahomes, who is arguably the best quarterback in all of the NFL. You can get that 9-1 number. I like that.
Before you deviate off Mahomes, he's actually the first guy that I'd be looking to bet on right now, because now that Tyreek Hill has been shipped off to Miami, people are going to be looking at this offense that is going to take a step back. And if
Yep.
Mahomes comes out here and puts up very similar numbers, close to 40 touchdowns, Kansas City wins the division again, how do you not look at him as the most valuable player on that team? And then in the league, taking that step towards like the Aaron Rodgers and the Tom Brady's of the world, where Kansas City runs as Patrick Mahomes goes.
Yeah, and it's all about expectation versus what actually happens, right?
Yep.
If we walk into the season after Mahomes wins the Super Bowl, the expectations are way up here. Well, Tyreek's gone, and they kind of didn't look as good last year, and now he's leaning on Juju and Mecole Hardman and some of the other options. Obviously, Sky Moore is incredibly interesting, but a rookie. We'll see what's there, but yeah, no, it's all about narrative. And if he comes out and has a monster season, 5,000 yards, 50
Yep.
touchdowns, he could be the slam dunk. As we scroll down, now we're hitting all the double digit lines. Is there a name kind of in this range that is jumping out to you? Because for me, there are 2 or 3 names that I really, really like, and let's say the Aaron Rodgers to Dak Prescott range.
First and foremost, I'm going to piggyback this off of last year. My love for the Chargers, now that they're actually out of San Diego. Justin Herbert, I think, takes a huge step this year. The number is a little short for me to get there, knowing that he has such tough competition in that division. I prefer him more towards the Stafford number. And to me, it's kind of interesting that it's not near there, seeing what Stafford was able to do with LA. But I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record of every other expert in the world, but Russell Wilson, 16-1. if he goes into Denver, takes that team to, 12-5 or whatever, 13-4, like that just goes to show how much better he was than his predecessor, and
Yeah.
he's going to get a ton of MVP votes. And he's going into an offense that probably is the most stacked offense he's ever played with.
Yeah. Russell Wilson is an incredible one. If you want to talk storyline, going from Seattle to Denver obviously makes a huge difference.
Yep.
Vaulting that offense from what we saw last year with Drew Lock or whoever under center, Teddy Bridgewater, to what it can be. And then obviously he's going to be having some TV moments, right? He's going to go head to head with Mahomes twice. He's going to go head to head with Herbert
Justin
twice.
Herbert.
He's going to go head to head with that Raiders offense in Vegas twice. Lots of national TV, lots of chances, and a bevy of weapons with Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler. Like there's even room where if like one of those guys goes down, he still has enough pieces there that they should, even Tim Patrick, like there's a chance that he has a monster season. And absolutely is one of the guys that you're, when we're talking again in November, December, his number is like 6-1 instead of 16.
Yeah, and I definitely see Wilson as a guy who he might not get to that 40 touchdown number for in terms of passing, but I think you're going to see his efficiency just skyrocket off the charts, knowing that he's going to have a defense that is going to shut teams down. He's not going to have to be doing as much in terms of forcing balls. So I mean, you're going to look at like Aaron Rodgers type stats where maybe he's like 15 of 20 for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns, as opposed to what he's doing with his Seattle, just chucking it deep all the time, praying, that they can catch it and put up points in order to win.
Yeah, but he still has that deep ball in him. He also has that rushing ability to add some extra juice to his numbers. So, 5,000 total yards, 40 touchdowns, 45 touchdowns, gets him in the conversation. I can't get to Dak. As much as I like the talent there, I just worry about that passing offense with really just CD and Dalton Schultz, and then hopefully Gallup comes back.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's another guy that's kind of okay. I just if I'm betting this range, the names that jump out to me are Justin Herbert and Russell Wilson. But then if we're like, we're talking about we need a team in the top of the AFC. If we have, 3 really amazing teams and then, potentially a fourth with the Raiders, should we be looking elsewhere as maybe there's a little too much competition? But
I almost feel like you could take whatever amount of units you were going to bet on one of those guys and maybe divvy it up amongst the divisional quarterbacks, and you're going to have a pretty good shot at an MVP type season out of one of those guys, because whoever comes out of the AFC West this year is going to have to put up some awesome numbers, and that team is going to have to be really good.
Well, and I think having all those guys in the division is going to be helpful. I think it's going to push every time they play one of those games, they'll have to force it. They'll have to do stuff.
And regardless of what people say, like the voters take that kind of stuff into account. Like your opponents definitely get taken into account when they're looking at the end of the season.
Let's jump into the 20 to 30 range. I think this is, kind of this range starts to get really interesting. Kyler is an incredible option. We've seen it the last 2 years. He starts off really strong. I thought last year was going to be the year, but he was really hyped on him. In the MVP market, there was some 40s and 50s out there that quickly got eaten up. And by the time season came around, he was kind of in this 15, 20, 25 range. They started him right about there. I think he makes sense in this range. It's just the question that I have with him is the last 2 years, when things have kind of gone into the meat of the season, injuries have started to pile up. His production has starting to go down, and all of a sudden he's just not the same guy he was in the first 2 months of the season. If we get 16 healthy games out of him,
17. Don't forget.
Well, 16 and then like a bye week or something.
Oh, okay.
Or like even if he just misses one game, I think he'd be fine. I think if he starts missing 3, 4, 5, that's when things really go off the rails. But if we get 16 really good games out of him, he could absolutely win the award. It's just I don't know that I trust him to do that. I like the addition of Marquise Brown. Obviously Christian Kirk's gone, but Rondell's there. They're going to be without Nuke for at least the first 6 weeks, but hopefully he comes back, adds another dimension, another spark to this offense, and kind of keeps the train rolling down the tracks. But at 20-1, I could definitely find myself getting there.
Yeah, it's hard to get there with Murray. Just kind of seeing the way he kind of has like a roller coaster type performance level. I mean, he'll have games where he looks absolutely incredible. He looks like a human joystick, and then he goes out there and he's like one of us playing quarterback behind the offensive line, and he's just chucking the ball up without looking, and he looks lost at times. And like you said, the injuries continue to happen for him, so it's a little bit worrisome in that regard. So I mean, if he comes out strong, the number is definitely going to drop because of his legs and his ability to run. But he's just not somebody I'd have the confidence in betting on.
I also wonder, because of how bad he looked in the playoff game, if he comes out and looks really strong, does that help build the narrative and like actually make it like does it make it more impressive? You know what I'm saying? Is our expectations going to be a little bit lower because of how bad he looked? That if he can come out and then play a full season, like he will definitely be in the name. Like if we're talking in November, December, is his number still around 18, or are we talking about him as like a 7-1 option?
Yeah, honestly, for me, I see him more around like that 12 to 15 mark. I mean, he has 2 tough defenses in there, and the Rams and the Niners. Like those are going to be tough games, and then like especially when they play the Niners, I don't expect to see high scoring affairs with those. With San Francisco transitioning, the Trey Lance going to be more run heavy. Unless it's just explosive runs. I mean, I could be completely off base here, but yeah, I don't know. Murray is kind of on my avoid list in terms of MVP this year.
Okay. Well, let's give some people the names that we're targeting. And we'll kind of run through some more. If we have any more dark horse type names, we can obviously throw those out. But I'll give you the T. I'll let you have the first pick. Who is your first option for your MVP ballot? Just for everyone out there, we're going to pick at least 3 names, or a maximum 3 names, and then we're going to take our $100 and divvy it up. So, Brian, you have the T. You get first pick. Who is your first person you're going to go to the window and back?
It's got to be Patrick Mahomes. Getting that 9-1 number at DraftKings, I feel like this is a steal of a number, knowing that the expectations are probably going to be lower for him. We hit on this, and if he comes out and puts up similar numbers, it's really going to highlight just how good and important he is to that team, which is only going to increase the probability of him winning the award.
Yep, I like it. I think it makes sense. I'm gonna do something I don't really want to do. I mean, I guess I don't want to say that, but I'm gonna go out on a little bit of a limb. I'm gonna go with a number that may be a little bit shorter than people's expectations. I'm gonna take Justin Herbert at 12-1. I think he showed a lot last year. I think missing the playoffs actually might be a good thing, because he's going to get this whole season to have expectations just a little bit lower. Obviously the defense got much better, adding Khalil Mack. You're going to need Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to stay healthy. They added Gerald Everett. They added Isaiah Spiller to complement Austin Eckler. But Herbert is a guy who can throw for 5,000 yards. He's going to have those primetime matchups against Russell Wilson, against Patrick Mahomes. He's going to have big games. He's going to have a chance. Like if this team vaults, now again, they will have a chance to win the AFC. And I know it's kind of risky going from a guy that didn't make the playoffs, but I think there's a real shot for him to be in the conversation. Obviously his number says that, but I think if getting 12-1, I will be all over it. I wouldn't go any shorter than 10-1 on him. But I think as long as you're getting double digits, I think it's a fine wager to make.
Yeah, I can't fault you there. I am all over the Chargers once again this year. I mean, I don't see why not everybody is kind of seeing this team as the next, just kind of like team to take that next step. Like,
Yeah.
to me, they resemble what Buffalo had been doing up until a couple of years ago, and they're right on the cusp of making it into that
Yeah.
elite level. And I think it's going to start this season.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is health. Like they have to stay
Yeah,
healthy, and Derwin James has to be healthy, and the offensive line has to be healthy, and Austin Eckler has to be healthy. And if all those things work, then they can absolutely represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. You are back on the clock. You get to make another selection. Who is your next pick at the betting window?
I mean, I'll start off by just saying real quick, I don't fault anybody, and honestly, myself, I'll probably do a little side wager on Tom Brady. I can never bet against that dude. I mean, just when we thought he was done, he comes back, and leave it to him. He'd be the only guy to say, "Yeah, screw it, I'm going to come back," and he goes out and he puts up another 50 touchdown season. So I think Tom Brady's kind of a sleeper. But the next one I already spoke about him, Russell Wilson, 16-1 at Caesars. That is ridiculous for a guy who could potentially take a middling 500 team to that next level, 12, 13 wins, which would easily propel him into the conversation for MVP.
I like it. I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to dive a little bit further down the board for my next pick, and it's Mr. 33-1 himself, Jalen Hurts.
Ugh,
I'm
gross.
I'm all aboard Philly this year. I think they are going to take tremendous strides as an offense, and I think he is a guy that, like Josh Allen before he exploded, like Lamar Jackson before he exploded, is ready to take a huge step forward. I know there's accuracy questions, but this guy is going to be in a completely different offense. I think last year early on they wanted to throw more, and I think they just couldn't get there with the pieces they had. Nelson Aguilar, was gone. Jalen Rager was a mess. Like it was really just Devonta Smith, and that's it. And then Dallas Goedert, obviously. But then they go out and make a huge move and get AJ Brown, who is an absolute stud. Also, if you look at Matt Harmon's reception perception on Devonta Smith, that guy is an absolute stud in the making as well. This team is going to throw a hell of a lot more. They got out from under the weight that is Doug Peterson, and Jalen Hurts is going to be in the conversation to win MVP at the end of the year. I think the NFC East is wide open. I know your Cowboys are there, but I think there's a chance that a lot of they could easily win that division, be in the conversation. I bet this earlier this year for 55-1.
Great
So I'm
number, by the
very
way.
happy to have that number and that ticket sitting in my pocket. The place where I bet it's now down to 16-1. So
Whew.
feeling great about that value. But if you can get it anything north of 30, and there's a few 30s, a few 33s out there, I think it's a bet that makes a lot of sense, and one that as I mentioned, I've already hit, and I'm very, very happy to have it in my pocket.
Yeah, I mean, Hurts, he has all the makings of a guy who could burst onto the scene and have like a Lamar Jackson type season with
Yep.
deep balls and that. But I just worry about his propensity to, turn the ball over and just kind of funky ways. I mean, the defenses in that division of Dallas was actually like real last year, and they actually improved with health wise. I think this is going to be one of the toughest defensive divisions in football. I know the addition of AJ Brown is huge, but I mean, I don't know. I'm a little more soured on the Eagles offense than most, I guess, with the addition of Brown. But I mean, the odds are too good to pass up in that case.
Yeah, I definitely think they're a polarizing offense. I think either you're in or you're out. I don't know if there's a lot of people that are in between. And
Mhm.
obviously, for fantasy purposes, it's a
Oh
different
yeah.
conversation. But I think the Eagles can be pretty good. I think they could take a step forward. And as I mentioned, I expect them to throw a hell of a lot more. And if everything clicks the way it has the potential to, I think it's going to be a tremendous value to have. Now, could it blow up and could he be replaced by week 6? Absolutely. They clearly put the pieces in place. He needs to take this position and run with it. And if he fails and is still inaccurate and still has issues and fumbles the ball and can't get the ball to AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, the Eagles will be moving on. They will be drafting high next year and going after Stroud or Bryce Young or somebody in the draft and kind of figuring it out from there. But this is his opportunity. So I am going to jump on board at 33-1.
Yeah, and then for my last guy, I'm going way down the board.
Let's go.
And he's coming back off an injury. The offense is going to be better than he saw it last year when he had put up a really nice touchdown to interception ratio. And that's Jameis Famous Winston at 150-1 at Caesars. This would be just a very minimal bet, like a $10 wager. But Sean Payton is gone. They got what's his name, Dennis Allen there. I think the defense is going to keep them in games and keep the offense on the field a little bit more. Jameis Winston showed the ability to not turn the ball over as much when he was starting last season. He's probably getting Michael Thomas back. They drafted Chris Olave. They signed Jarvis Landry. And over the first 6 games of the year, minus Alvin Kamara, you could see this team go a little more pass heavy, which would kind of highlight Winston's improvements as a quarterback. And say New Orleans comes out here and surprises the NFC South with the Bucs kind of going through that limbo phase with Bruce Arians' exit and then kind of, Tom Brady's uncertainty. I think it's not out of the question to see Jameis Winston put up another 35 to 40 touchdown year. And if he can cut those interceptions down to like 10 to 15 and maybe stop fumbling the ball, like this is a legit shot to hit at a huge number.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a number that we could be talking in November and it could be like 35 or 40. And
yeah, exactly. And that's what it's bet off of.
Healthy Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Adam Troutman, Jarvis Landry, even Alvin Kamara, whether he gets suspended or not, it looks like he's going to at least miss some time. But, and yeah, we'll see. Without Sean Payton there, maybe the offense gets a little more aggressive, a little more fun. Having Carolina and Atlanta to tear up on 2 times a year definitely doesn't stink. So I like that call. I like the aggressive call. I had a few names, Brian, but as I figured would happen, one has kind of bubbled to the top after our initial conversation. I'm not going to get quite as aggressive as you, but I will be going a little further down, and I'm going to find 60-1 on Mr. Trey Lance. I know there's question marks about what he is, what he can be, but he is a dynamic runner. He is a guy who has a decent deep ball, a guy that's going to be put in an amazing offense with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, whoever at running back, TDP, Elijah Mitchell, maybe Trey Sermon is allowed to come back to the offense. Who knows? But this is an offensive line that's solid. This is a really good defense and a team that could legitimately win the NFC. And that's a combination that is going to have him in the conversation if things go according to plan. If he is good, if he is your starter, I think we're getting a better number because Jimmy Garoppolo is still kind of there casting a little bit of a shadow.
Oh, he's
I think if he had been traded before the draft, I think this number is 25 or 30 at worst.
Probably.
So I think if you can get 60, I'm absolutely jumping on it. 50, I'm all over it. 40, I'm fine with it, but I think at that point it's going to get a little hairier, and I'd rather keep diving down and get to a Jalen Hurts, get to a couple other names that as also Rands that I will kind of throw out at the end. But I just think the number makes too much sense. I think the potential is absolutely there. And if everything clicks like it has the potential to do, he will be maybe he doesn't win the award, but he will definitely be in the conversation. And having that 60-1, you could, find whoever, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and kind of hedge your bet a little bit
Yep.
if you took Lance, and it's we're talking in December, and it's Mahomes, and then it's Lance, and then it's Matthew Stafford or whoever, and you can kind of hedge your bet a little bit. But at 60-1, I think it's a number I like, and I'm going to actually, after this episode, go scramble and see if I can't find it at a decent price. Otherwise, I will be shopping it and trying to get a little piece of that action. But yes, that is my third selection.
Yeah, the Trey Lance for me he's probably the most polarizing option coming into the season, because we haven't really seen a ton of him on the field. I mean,
Yeah.
he looked good as a runner against Arizona last year when he played there, but didn't really get to see them unleash him throwing the ball, which obviously, if he is the guy, you're going to see a completely different offense than what Shanahan kind of unveiled last season.
Yep.
So, I mean, if he's putting up 200 passing yards, couple touchdowns, and running the ball 50, 60 yards every single game, and this team does what they did last year, dominant on defense, kind of controlling the game, keeping the ball in their hands on offense, he has every bit the same chance to win this award as, even a Russell Wilson, who may be overshadowed by his defense, so
Yeah.
That's a great number, like you said, and it could be closer to 30-1, 20-1 as we're in the middle of the season.
100%. Was there any other names that you considered that you didn't end up going with?
Well, I think Jonathan Taylor is a really intriguing running back case. I know Derrick Henry, he didn't get the award, even though he surpassed 2,000 rushing yards. But the one difference there is that Jonathan Taylor should see a little bit more usage in the passing game than Derrick Henry. I think that Indy's offense is probably going to take a step forward with Matty Ice as opposed to Carson Wentz here. Their defense, I think, should improve, it was good last year, but it was kind of, had its moments where it kind of faltered. And I think that if they integrate Taylor a little bit more into the passing game, and this team takes over that division that Tennessee has kind of left open for others, I think Taylor has a good case. If he gets 20 plus rushing touchdowns, maybe adds like 5 or 6 through the air, he's going to have a legit shot at the end of the season.
Yeah, if I'm excuse me, if I'm betting a non-quarterback, I think he is on the short list. That makes a lot of sense. So much of that offense is going to go through him, even with Matty Ice in the picture. But yeah, and that's a division that's much more attainable. So yeah, if they win, we've seen them be good the past couple of years of Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz. Now they actually have Matt Ryan, who, for all of Matt Ryan's faults, is much better than both those guys. So I like that. Lamar Jackson, I think is interesting at 20-1 or better. The Ravens had the season from hell last year. Everything went wrong, injuries everywhere. I think they can be much better this year. I think that division is completely open. And I think he could be, a guy that wins the award. I think he was the first guy cut from my trio of options. So Brian, let's give the people our dollar values. Once again, if you're enjoying what we're doing, make sure you smash that thumbs up, make sure you hit the like button, and let us know down in the comments, who are you betting to win the NFL MVP this year? We're always looking for interesting names, interesting targets. If you want to tell me Daniel Jones or Tua as your favorite option, then I wouldn't blame you one bit. But Brian, let's go with our dollar value. So you have $100 to spend. How are you dividing that up?
Yeah, so I'm going 50% of my money, or $50, is going on Patrick Mahomes at 9-1. I think that's just, I feel so confident that he's going to maintain his level of play, and that's such a great number for him.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, a slight decrease. I'd be going in at $40 or 40% of my units. And then Jameis Winston, like I said, just 10% of my units, or $10 on that 150-1 mark, is just a payout that I would take even on $1. I mean,
right.
That is such a great number. I'd even be willing to go to their, even like $20 with Winston, but the likelihood of that one hitting is lot less likely. So yeah, no.
Yeah.
So I've had broken down 50 for Mahomes, 40 Russell Wilson, and $10 on Jameis Winston.
Yeah, and if you have a live Jameis ticket starting in November, December, maybe you head over to PropSwap and
Oh yeah.
throw that up there. I'm going to do something very similar. I'm going Justin Herbert, 12-1, $55. Jalen Hurts, 33-1. I'm putting $30 on him. And then Trey Lance at 60-1. I'm putting $15. So,
Ooh, I like that.
Obviously feel much better, much safer with Herbert. But I do like Hurts quite a bit. He's the only one I've actually bet real dollars so far. As I mentioned, Lance will be going on the card as well, real dollars, and then I'll probably find one or two other options. But don't love locking up capital for the whole entire season if it's not at a number I feel amazing about. So that is kind of where my head's at. Make sure you subscribe, do all the fun stuff. Brian and I will be back with our Super Bowl winners. We'll talk win totals. We'll have some other NFL content between now and the season, as well as we'll be with you each and every week, helping you find winners, against the spread, totals, props, all the good stuff. So make sure you subscribe and ride with us all year long. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.